I want to tell you a story about John Janczewski. He lives in Rose, Michigan. His son, when he was an 8th grader, was molested by a teacher at his high school. Now, his son is now a sophomore in college. This story came out because somebody took a picture of his son in a compromising position with this teacher. So the picture came out. That caused an investigation and a trial, and the teacher was convicted of statutory rape of an 8th grader. The judge, who was a hanging judge in Michigan, gave him 15 to 30 years in prison. Now, I personally think if you molest or rape a child, you don't ever see the light of day. But I read in an inconvenient book that the average sentence for child molestation is 2 years, 2.5 years. What was it? 2.5? We don't seem to care that much. I think the average person cares an awful lot. I think the average person would hear 15 to 30 years for statutory rape of an 8th grader. Now, that's not where this story ends. There were 7 teachers who wrote letters in support of this convicted pedophile that said, look at his whole record. This isn't the sum of his life. Can you believe this? This isn't the sum of life. He's done a lot of great things, too. I don't know. Raping a child, pretty much, there is no balance anymore. You do that once, there's no balance. And they're saying, well, there's no other evidence that he's ever done it before. And may I just suggest that this is exactly how we got to the Janczewski trials. This is exactly how we got to that situation. People protecting their own because either they know him and they can't believe it, or they don't want shame to come on the teachers or the school or whatever it is. This is exactly the Janczewski story. Well, just keep quiet. You don't know for sure what happened, and there's only this one, really. Again, you have set, what was it? Was this kid, I don't mean to be grotesque here, but was this kid just super, super hot? What makes him, as an 8th grader, different than the other 8th graders that have come by? How do you know? Well, they're having a meeting tonight to decide the fate of these teachers because the town is a small town, wants them fired. I would too. If you have shown such poor judgment that you are letting your feelings come before and say, well, no, but I know him. Well, did you know he was having sex with the 8th grader? Did you know that about him? So what do you know about him? I think that he's not somebody that we should have teaching. And if you really think that a sentence of 15 to 30 years is too harsh for somebody who had sex with an 8th grader, I don't want you teaching my child. Thank you very much. They decide tonight, but there's more to this story, but I'm going to have the father of the boy tell you the rest of the story. John, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Mr. Beck.
I'm sorry that we have to meet under these conditions. I would imagine the conversation that we've had for the last couple of days had to be your son has, did you guys know at all? Did you have any idea at all that this was going on?
No, we had no idea at all. I basically, when it first started happening at about 13 and a half years old, I chalked it up to puberty. But as it got worse, I said to myself, going through puberty myself, I was never that bad.
What was happening?
What was happening is he began to hate me. He began to lash out at me. We had physical battles. I was worthless to him as time went on. And we're a close family. We tell each other we love each other. That all diminished, and it never came back, and it just got worse.
Is it back now?
It is back now. Now we text and talk at least 2 to 3 times a week, maybe sometimes 4. We're over 8 years. He wouldn't even talk to me. He wouldn't. He didn't bother to take the time. We appeared to be a happy family on the outside, but on the inside we were torn apart and tearing apart. It was horrible. For 8 years, I lost my son that I'll never get back for over 8 years. Some of the best years of his life growing up I lost that are gone forever.
So, I don't want to be the guy that asks you the questions, and so feel free to, because nobody's going to say a word about you not answering a question, and I do not mean to be rude or pry. It's none of our business. But
no, please go ahead.
The picture. How did the picture come out?
What had happened is somebody anonymously sent the picture to the Board of Education, the superintendent, the principal, and they sent it in an email, and then they sent another email, more pictures will follow. And 4 days before it came out, my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Oh, dear God.
And she was diagnosed and told about it on a Wednesday, and then on that Sunday back in October, 4 days after that, the state police were in my driveway, and they showed up, and when they showed up, they had a picture of our son and asked if it was our son, and they stated right there he was molested by a Rose City Middle School teacher called Neil Erickson.
So you had to, first of all, how's your wife?
My wife isn't doing very well. She's been through 2 breast surgeries, and when she did radiation, they, on her last couple of visits of radiation, they do x-rays each week of radiation, and they told her it's in her lungs now.
How is her relationship with your son?
It's always been okay, but he has lashed out with her. But now her relationship is really well with him. My son and I are trying to open a new chapter in a new book, and try to start all over again.
Was your son relieved that this came out?
He was relieved, yes. He's held this inside for 8 to 9 years. Psychologically, can you imagine that on a young boy, having to hold that in and be threatened all the time and hold that inside him? Okay. What a way to grow up and enjoy the best years of your life.
So now there's 2 parts of the story that we have to get to. One is the teachers that came in support. How many people live in your town?
Live in the town approximately, I would say 6,000 to 8,000.
So this is a small town.
Yes.
And it's a small town school, and I would imagine that your values are not New York City values.
Right.
And these teachers, it had to be shocking for these teachers to come out and say, well, we don't know that, the totality of this teacher's life and career is not so bad.
Right.
What exactly is the case they're making here?
The case they were making is it was a one-time incident. The child could have stopped it. He was groomed, and he was a predator.
So the community, they want these teachers fired.
Right.
They do?
Pardon me?
The community wants these teachers fired?
Yes, they do. They want the teachers fired. They want Mike Egan recalled and taken off the board.
And who's Mikey?
Mike Egan is a
Mike
board
Egan.
member of the school board.
And what did he do?
He sat on the molester's side. His wife, Amy Huber Egan, wrote a letter for leniency.
So tonight at 7 o'clock at the auditorium, how do you say the name of your Ogima?
Ogama Heights High School at
Ogama
7
Heights.
o'clock in the auditorium.
Okay. And there you have to decide the fate. And they're saying that if you fire these teachers because they will sue, it will bankrupt the town.
That's what they're saying. But as a molester, that does not matter. He molested a child.
But they will say that it is just their right to free speech. So why should they be punished for free speech? Have we lost him? We've lost him. Can you get him back on the phone, please? This is we haven't gotten to the worst part yet. I warn you. But there is a happy ending.